Dear participant, I'm sorry there is a technical problem. So I will start to say a few things, and then Mr. Jean, you can present the video from the mayor of a dog, and if the vice mayor will be here, we will continue with him. Well, dear mayor, dear presenters from South Korea and Corinth, dear members of the coordination team of the UNESCO Global Network of Learning Cities, dear Greek discussants, dear participants from many countries, as I see in the screen. I am George Bagakis, the coordinator, and it is a great honor for me to coordinate this important event, which is organized by Corinth Learning City. This is an outcome of collaborations and friendships that gradually developed between ADOG and Corinth. The existence of the UNESCO Global Network of Learning Cities was the base on which we initially interacted, and afterwards, the perfect collaboration and support of Marie McLoy from the coordination team of the network enormously upgraded our event. Two relatively small cities of the network, the population of ADOG with 160,000 inhabitants is about 2.5 times the population of Corinth, of about 60,000 inhabitants. Both historical cities from different continents and cultures attempt to build ties to understand and compare each other in order to mutually learn from each other and develop. The focal point today is lifelong learning, which is and the substance of the UNESCO network of learning cities. Finally, this event today is also an effect of the unbelievable power of networking in our days. As Corinth Learning City, we strongly believe in networking, in dialogue, and in parentheses I say is a word with a Greek origin. In ADOG, they have marvelous ways of good use of the previous. As Corinth Learning City, we are really obliged to our Korean partners for their invaluable initiatives, collaboration, and support. We expect a team of them to visit us soon in Corinth in order to strengthen and further concretize our collaboration. We are enormously obliged to Marie McLeay for the honor to have her with us. We also envisage bigger collaborations with the UNESCO Global Network. I am sure Marie will enable us to deeper understand lifelong learning with her enormous global experience, and will open new perspectives of collaborations of Corinth, both with South Korea, and with UNESCO network. Now, concerning the program, we will start with the salutations of the mayor. It was, okay, we'll leave it to see what will happen of Corinth. We will have the video message of the mayor of ADOG first, in this case. And then the mayor of tourism, I hope Pietris, Timoleontas Pietris will be with us to say a few words for a salutation. Then the main speakers will follow according to the program. Mr. Jean, the Chief of Lifelong Learning Team of ADOG City, Mary McCloy, from a member of the coordination team of the UNESCO, and finally, 2 Greek specialists of lifelong learning and experience to learning cities, Dimitris Deligiannis, many, I think you know him, and George Koulaouzidis will follow. There is also a friend of Corinth, Petros Gougoulakis, with us from the University of Stockholm, who will say 2 words. Dear participants, you can use the chat during the presentation, and in the end, I hope we will have the possibility of questions to the speakers for a final answer from them. I think we can start. Mr. Pietris, did Mr. Pietris came? The Vice Mayor is here? No, as far as
Mr. Bagakis, no.
No?
No, he's not here, so we should start with a video.
Mr. Chin, you can start with a video from ADOG.
Yes.
존경하는 바실리노 나노폴로스 시장님, 티모레 온타스 피에드리스 부시장님, 조지 바카키스 교수님, 그리고 유네스코 GNLC 관계자 여러분, 그리스 코린트 시민 여러분 반갑습니다. 세계 속의 한국, 한국 속의 한국을 대표하는 안동시장 건기창입니다. 그리스 코린트시와 대한민국 안동시의 평생교육 온라인 컨퍼런스에 초대해 주신 것에 깊이 감사드리며 매우 영광스럽게 생각을 합니다. 그리스의 코린트시와 대한민국 안동시는 공통점이 많습니다. 특히 전통 문화를 잘 보존하고 있는 양국가를 대표하는 역사도시라는 점이 일맥상통합니다. 또한 시민들의 평생 교육을 위해 많은 노력을 하는 유네스코 GNLC 회원도시란 공통점도 있습니다. 안동시는 2022년에 국제교육도시연합 세계총회와 세계역사도시회의 등 국제회의를 개최했습니다. 오늘 컨퍼런스를 준비해 주신 조지 교수님께도 이때 코린트시를 대표해 안동시를 방문해 주셨습니다. 다시 한번 그날의 고마움을 담아 감사 인사를 드립니다. 오늘 이 컨퍼런스를 통해 코린트시와 안동시가 평생교육을 비롯한 여러 분야에서 교류를 활발히 하고 각 도시의 우수한 사례를 공유하길 바랍니다. 또 기회가 되면 직접 방문을 통해 두 도시 간 우호 협력을 강화하고 싶다는 말씀을 드리며 오늘 온라인 컨퍼런스에 참석해 주신 모든 분의 건강과 행운을 기원합니다. 감사합니다.
And now we'll go to the main presentation. So, dear Ja Gong Jin, sorry for the pronunciation, Chief of the Lifelong Learning Team of ADOG Learning City.
지금 바로 해줘.
The idea of the conference derives from the impressive descriptions of your work in ADOG. I mean it. So the floor is yours.
Kalispero. Thank you for attending today's online conference between Corinth, Greece, and Andong, Korea. Dear citizens of Corinth, including Mayor Vasilis Nanopoulos, nice to meet you. I am Jae Kyung-jin, the team head of the lifelong learning team in Andong City. I am pleased to introduce the Andong City to promote educational exchange between Corinth and Andong. Last year, Andong hosted the International Association of Educating Cities World Congress and the World Conference of the League of Historical Cities, preparing to become a global learning city. From those groundworks, I hope there will be an opportunity to go further next level between two cities. I thank those who attended today's online conference, hoping the meeting you in Corinth near future. I will begin my presentation. My presentation will go with the general aspect of Andong, including local features, school and lifelong learning facilities, Andong Lifelong Learning Center and its programs, Lifelong Learning Project, and Global Learning City, Andong. Let me begin with the brief introduction of Andong City. Andong has been inhabited since prehistoric times, and it's been the land that makes the eastern part of the Korean peninsula peaceful. With a total area of 1,522 square kilometers, it is 2.5 times larger than Seoul, the capital of Korea. It is the city with the largest land area by city unit. It has a population of about 160,000 and is the central city of administration, education, and cultures as the seat of the provincial government of Gyeongsang-Buk-do. The budget of Andong City has an annual fiscal scale of 1.13 billion euros. Let me tell you about the characteristics of Andong, a city of lifelong learning. First, Andong is a treasure trove of Korean history and culture that best preserves the original form of Confucian culture. The city is called the capital of Korean spirit, and the 4 national treasures and 9 treasures, including the Hwee Mosque. It is the best historical and cultural city in Korea, with more than 40 seowon, the most significant number in the country. Second, Hwee Village retains its old appearance, Bongjeongsa Temple, the oldest wooden building in Korea, 4 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, Dosan Seowon and Byeongsan Seowon Confucian Academy, 3 documentary heritage sites, and Hwee Talchum and intangible cultural heritage. It is a World Heritage City. Third, after being selected as a lifelong learning city in 2003 and joining the International Association of Educating Cities in 2010, in 2019, it joined the UNESCO Global Network of Learning Cities. Andong has traditionally been the Center of Education in the northern region of Gyeongsang-Buk-do. A total of 61 schools includes 3 universities, elementary, middle school, high school, and special schools. The number of students is about 29,000. Andong City was selected as the first lifelong learning city in Gyeongbuk province in 2003. We are creating a learning city where citizens can learn and share anytime, anywhere. Andong Lifelong Learning Center, hospitals, libraries, and streets are located throughout the city. About 80,000 learners, about 50% of citizens in 116 lifelong learning facilities, participation in various lifelong learning programs. Compared to 2010, Andong, a city of lifelong learning, has increases the number of lifelong education facilities by 68% and the number of participations in lifelong education by 75%. That is what Andong City aims to engage all citizens to participate in learning anytime, anywhere. Together with great citizens, we are working hard to create a new Andong. We will introduce the current status of Andong Lifelong Learning Center. Andong Lifelong Learning Center is a lifelong learning facility that serves as an education control tower for the lifelong learning city. The center completed in 2015 and the total floor area is 3,094 square meters. First basement floor, 4th floor above ground, cooking room, confectionery and baking room, beauty salon, computer training room, language room, nursery room, etc. It is located in the middle of the city center, which is easy for citizens to use. From 2022, the learning center classrooms are open to Andong citizens for free at time when education is not held. Andong City Lifelong Learning Center operates various lifelong education programs for citizens on an annual basis. About 100 programs are often and operated as regular education courses. Annually, 40 additional courses and 80 special lectures are additionally operated evening courses, and about 2,000 citizens participate in education at the Lifelong Learning Center every year. In particular, we plan to open a senior education course starting this year and operate about 30 programs. If you introduce the first half process, it will be open for 755 people in 51 classrooms for 4 months from March. We are doing our best to manage the quality of programs by conducting preliminary demand surveys and satisfaction surveys to encourage citizen participation. To introduce just a few programs such as the coffee barista course, master cook, computer license, home fashion, and daily cooking are popular. Since 2012, Andong City has made and operates a lifelong education facility called the Happy Learning Center near citizens' homes. We are currently running 3 happiness learning centers in the city, providing customized lifelong learning to citizens by creating learning spaces close to life. What I would like to introduce in particular is the Van Olim Happiness Learning Center. In 2014, a learning center was installed in Andong Hospital to operate a lifelong learning programs for citizens and patients using the hospital. In particular, it is very popular with patients because it can soothe boredom during hospitalization. The most prominent feature of the Happiness Learning Center is that it is located close to the citizen and is led by the private sector. It's about being directly involved in the planning and operation. Invited speakers talk program is to share the influencer speakers' idea, insight for the citizen. Since 2008, more than 56,000 people have participated in more than 120 lectures. Andong City has been promoting the Lifelong Learning City project since 2003 under the 3 visions, such as to build a lifelong learning city where all citizens can easily participate, and to build a city where we learn and grow together, and to build a lifelong learning city where learning is participated throughout life. Also, we work for 3 goals to realize the vision of building a livable learning society where nature, people, and culture coexist. First, promotion of lifelong education programs. Second, expanding the base of lifelong learning. Third, by promoting a learning culture, we are supporting citizens can tap benefit from the various learning services they want anytime, anywhere. It may be very unfamiliar to the participants today, but it is an educational program called Street Class in Andong City. The Street Class means the learning space such as cafe and business space owned by citizens are provided free of charge. It uses as the lifelong learning space designed by Andong City. If 5 more citizens gather and apply for a lecture, a teacher and provide a total of 20 hours of training classes. All educational programs held in the street class are free of charge, and Andong City pays for dispatched instructors. However, the cost of material required for the lecture is borne by citizens. The programs to introduce This time is also a unique educational program along with the street classes. It is a program called Citizen Instructor, where citizen, talent, and knowledge are shared with others. As a sharing program, Andong City supports an educational program that does not require a separate license or significant and can be shared with the citizen. This special education program imparts life know-how, such as cooking and exercise. 30 to 40 courses are offered annually. Andong City supports volunteer learning groups composed of citizens interested in the same subject. Programs that build learning communities and promote community development. An activity fee of about 1,500 euros is provided for each club. For the underprivileged in education, Andong City conducts visiting Korean delivery class for illiterate people who do not know letters, door-to-door literacy class that teaches Hangul by visiting individual homes, and digital literacy education for digital illiterate people. We also operate a separate lifelong learning program for the disabled. To learn good example from the world and move forward as a global learning city, Andong City joined the IAEC in 2010 and acts as a member city of the Asia Pacific Network and IAEC. In 2019, it joined the UNESCO Global Learning City Network and was active. We are promoting various educational activities to implement under the IAEC Charter and various activities to advance to a global learning city. German Citizen University, DBB, and UNESCO Global Learning Cities recognize Andong for benchmarking cities. As I said before, Andong successfully held the 60th Andong International City Association World Congress in 2022. Through this, we strive to benchmark the best practice of learning cities worldwide, exchanging with 188 domestic lifelong learning cities are also being strengthened. Lastly, it was my brief presentation about Andong City. It is my first time meeting to online, but this is the beginning of both cities' collaboration for good exchanges. There is a saying in Korean that education is the one-to realization of a human being. So in education, it aims to discuss aesthetic person. I hope that my presentation I presented today will be helpful to Corinth City. Through this opportunity, I want to share Andong's educational spirit, where Korea's history and spirit live and breathe in Corinth, where the power of Greek civilization remains. Thank you for listening. Efkaristo.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Jean. as I told in the beginning,
Thank you so much.
this conference derives from your descriptions in a dog. There are many impressive things in what you said, but I will leave the other Greek discussants to comment on them. We will make a small, we will change a bit the program because the Vice Mayor of Corinth, Timoleontas Pietris, who participates in the coordination team of the Corinth Learning City, is with us finally. Dear Timoleonta Pietri, Vice Mayor of Tourism of Corinth and member of the coordination team of Corinth Learning City, the floor is yours.
Please unmute your microphone, Mr. Pietris.
The microphone.
You hear me?
We can hear you, Mr. Pietris.
I don't hear you very well. Okay. From South Korea, dear member of the coordination team of the UNESCO Global Network of Learning City, dear Greek discussants, dear participants, it is a great honor for me that my city, Corinth, organized this significant event within the framework of the UNESCO Global Network of Learning Cities. We invest a lot in our participation on this important network, which facilitates my city to collaborate with other cities of the globe and share experiences on many aspects which promote the development of Corinth and gradually create a new culture of lifelong learning. From my point of view, as Vice Mayor of Tourism, I try on the one hand to facilitate the attempts of Corinth as a learning city, and on the other, to incorporate its achievements in our touristic policy, which can promote them to other cities, regions, and countries. In this context, we look forward for the visit in Corinth of a team from ADOG of South Korea in order to strengthen our ties of collaboration in civilization, education, and tourism, which are priorities of Corinth as a learning city. I wish a great success of this very important event for Corinth. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Timoleontas is always supporting us, and it's very important, as the mayor as well, for whom the technical problems did not allow to address his salutation as well. And now, we will go to the UNESCO network. Dear Marie Macaulay, from the coordinator team of the UNESCO Global Network of Learning Cities, I was impressed from your sensitivity and the support for the event, for this event. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
Perfectly.
Thank you. And can you just confirm you can see the screen with the slides?
Yes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Kalispera, everyone, and good evening to our Korean colleagues. I'm very, very happy to be here today with you. So I'll be sharing some insights into the work of the UNESCO Global Network of Learning Cities, and also some interesting cases that illustrate some of the approaches in promoting lifelong learning, practically speaking at the local level. So we'll be talking first, giving you a little bit of an overview of the Global Network of Learning Cities for those of you who are joining from different perspectives. You might not know necessarily what our work consists in. as well as how we understand later on the promotion of lifelong learning and what lifelong learning looks like in our work day to day. And finally, I'll touch upon some very specific innovative cases from the Republic of Korea and also some cases in Greece to highlight some of the partnerships that are underway between the two countries as well as the different cities within the two countries. Moving on to the next slide, just to give you a little bit of background on the GNLC. So the Global Network of Learning Cities is an international policy-oriented network that aims to offer inspiration, know-how, and good practices on how to enhance and develop lifelong learning within cities. Members in the GNLC aim to promote lifelong learning and a learning culture that address different specific topics around social, economic, environmental, and health issues. So the network actually brings together learning city promoters from around the world on a regular basis. For example, members can meet every 3 years during the International Conference of Learning Cities. Participants of those conferences meet to join and discuss challenges, exchange on certain solutions around a specific topic. So for example, in 2021, in Yeongsu in the Republic of Korea, the 5th International Conference of Learning Cities took place. And during that time, members of the network, as well as all of the participants of the conference, were able to discuss the topic of lifelong learning for health and well-being. So as well, we have different ways of complementing how cities can work with each other. And to do this, we developed the Learning City Award. I won't go into too much detail today, but just to give you an idea, this particular award seeks to recognize and celebrate good practices that are promoting lifelong learning at the local level. And it takes place at the same time as when the members of the network join for the international conference. So members, 10 cities receive this award every 3 years. And then also you'll note here that members have the chance to engage in capacity building and training activities, as well as what I've just mentioned in terms of events and sharing and networking. And maybe I'll also just briefly go over what we understand a learning city to be. So essentially, the network, which started in 2013, defines learning cities as a city that manages to mobilize its resources across every single sector in order to promote inclusive learning from basic to higher education, to revitalize learning within families, but also within communities, to facilitate learning for, but also in the workplace, to extend the use to all for modern learning technologies, and to enhance quality and excellence in learning, as well as foster overall a culture of lifelong learning. So it's important to note that members of the Global Network of Learning Cities today form 5 thematic clusters that cover specific themes that you can see here today. So we work on the topic of inclusion, global citizenship education, which the city of Larissa is working on with Yeongsu, among other cities, the topic of education for sustainable development, the topic of planning, and the topic of health and well-being. And the city's local governments, through this experience, this shared work experience, will work and engage on those specific topics to develop work plans and implement lifelong learning policies at the local level around those specific themes that I've just mentioned. Moving on, so today we actually have 294 active members from 76 different countries, and the next application period for Learning Cities will be opening this year in April, and it opens every 2 years for countries to identify cities to apply for. So we have 294 active members that benefit from, like I mentioned, this knowledge generation, knowledge exchange, peer learning, and capacity building. Members within the network tend to support one another in addressing some of the bigger challenges that they have. And in some cases, they actually work to develop regional, sub-regional, and national networks. And that's actually the case for Republic of Korea, which I'll explain a little bit later. but also other countries in Latin America, for example, and in Europe as well as in Africa. There are countries as well as regions that are developing sub-networks as part of this global network of learning cities. So just to say, the global network of learning cities has fostered this articulation of a broad range of partnerships between cities, between foundations, between higher education institutions, NGOs, UN agencies, among others. And in this way, the network has had a really important role in the last 10 years to support the implementation of lifelong learning as a means to reach the UN's Sustainable Development Goals at the local level. And through its efforts, the GNLC also offers important benefits for its citizens. So through promoting inclusive lifelong learning opportunities and building learning ecosystems, the members of the GNLC foster individual empowerment and cohesion. They manage to equip residents with the skills that they need to confront this constantly evolving economic, social, and environmental challenges. But learning cities also encourage economic development and cultural prosperity. They typically do this through bringing together numerous stakeholders, like I mentioned, foundations, associations, but also schools, community centers, libraries, social clubs, training institutes, universities, and more. And the local government is actually really well placed to lead this multi-stakeholder initiative making that can lead to this economic and cultural benefit for citizens. We've heard a little bit already from our colleagues in Andong, and I'm sure we'll hear more later on from our colleagues in Greece. And also the GNLC members are driving sustainable development, so for their communities through providing residents with a broad array of opportunities to acquire skills, competencies, and attitudes that are necessary for a green and healthy future. So overall, learning cities are constructing these resilient and inclusive societies where individuals and communities can thrive. And so now I'll move a little bit to the broader side of lifelong learning, as Mr. George Baptiste explained earlier, that I'll be presenting a little bit of the work of UNESCO on the topic of lifelong learning and how we understand lifelong learning, how it operates at the local level as well. So as we've seen, lifelong learning for all is at the heart of the global network of learning cities work. And there are really 5 essential elements that the UNESCO definition of lifelong learning includes, and those cover the fact that lifelong learning has to include and concern all age groups, all levels of education, all learning modalities, all learning spheres and spaces, as well as a variety of purposes. And so lifelong learning in this context is rooted in the integration of learning and living, covering learning activities for people of all ages, whether it's children, young people, adults, elderly, etc., in all wide contexts. So this family, school, community, and workplace included, and through a variety of modalities as well. So it doesn't have to just be, formal learning within schools, but it also happens in the non-formal and informal contexts, community centers, but also within your family, and which together meet a wide range of learning needs and demands. And so before discussing maybe the different outcomes of lifelong learning at the local level in more detail through the case studies, I want to share a little bit with you some of the work of UNESCO and UIL on how we can embrace a culture of lifelong learning and what does that actually mean. So just to give you a little bit of context, UIL's contribution to the UNESCO International Commission on the Futures of Education, which is a report that was published in 2020, argues that creating a global culture of lifelong learning will be key to addressing the challenges faced by humanity, from the climate crisis to technological and demographic changes. And so this publication specifically, and this thought process stems from 12 different experts from different fields, including demography, economics, education, philosophy, public health, neuroscience, sociology, who are all invited to contribute on this report to propose some very specific concrete tools and measures. And so these experts considered the potential contribution of lifelong learning in both transforming the field of education and in creating a more sustainable, healthy, inclusive future. And so this particular report actually begins by presenting a vision for lifelong learning in 2050. it looks at a deep cultural shift based on strong awareness of the multifaceted potential of learning. And this, like I said, means more than just formal, but also involves non-formal and informal, which will pervade all spheres of life and really have an important impact throughout how we learn. And this particular vision anticipates that learning will be better adapted to people's lives in the future. And I won't go into reading all of this. I'm sure this will be shared with you after, but these are some of the features of lifelong learning in the years to come and what it will look like. And so to be able to successfully foster a culture of lifelong learning, there's a need to first create this enabling environment. And so each of the points that you can see here displayed on the screen can be considered as a fundamental condition for such a culture to exist. And I won't again go into individual ones because we don't have the time today, because this is not the sole focus of the event, but you can see here important aspects include a strong social fabric, sufficient funding and resource mobilization, a cultural shift towards lifelong learning, all of which also apply to the local level. And so at the core of this publication, there are 10 key messages which collectively carry 6 benefits. So inclusion and equality, mental, physical well-being, striving economies, social cohesion and active citizenship, resilient societies, and finally sustainability. And each of these 10 messages, which I invite you to go look at if you haven't before, is accompanied by action points with very practical suggestions on how to move these forward. So again, I won't read through all of them, but I'll just maybe mention a few. Recognizing lifelong learning as a new human right, recognizing and promoting the collective dimension of learning, transforming schools and universities into lifelong learning institutions, and recognizing the holistic character of lifelong learning, among other. So just to summarize on these, I think, relatively important points, a wide-reaching culture of lifelong learning really relies on this strong social fabric. It can protect against poverty, discrimination, other forms of inequality, and also this cultural shift towards lifelong learning is quite crucial in education system, in institutions, in people's minds. Bringing this awareness to of the communal value of education and learning will be complementary to enhancing this overall awareness of the need for wide-spanning lifelong learning culture. And so now we can move a little bit more into the local level. So the local aspect of lifelong learning is equally important to what I've just mentioned. All of these are maybe some more theoretical underpinnings of how we understand the vision of lifelong learning. And practically speaking, lifelong learning at the local level is equally can apply these different points. So when inclusive opportunities are provided, lifelong learning can pave the way for work opportunities. It can also support upskilling and reskilling. It can foster personal development and provide individuals with the competencies they need to be active and global citizens. And in line with the work of the thematic cluster, lifelong learning at the local level really needs to keep in mind these different points that you see here on the screen. So essentially, lifelong learning at the local level needs to be socially just, which means that lifelong learning opportunities should be available to all. Efforts to include marginalized groups like migrants, refugees, former prisoners, illiterate individuals, young mothers, and more should be made at the local level again. Lifelong learning at the local level is ecologically sustainable, which means that it can contribute to sustainability through encouraging citizens, for example, to reconnect with nature. It can help in providing ecological knowledge and transforming negative behaviors towards the environment, fostering the replacing of these behaviors with positive actions. Lifelong learning can also promote economic growth without compromising the well-being of the less fortunate or minority groups, and can help access fair opportunities, work opportunities. It can be politically participatory. At the local level, lifelong learning can help inform citizens about political decisions, encourage participation in decision-making and electoral processes, and foster youth involvement. Often this is referred to through citizenship education, which I think we'll hear a little bit more about from our colleague from Larissa. And finally, lifelong learning at the local level can be culturally vibrant. It can help promote intercultural awareness, combat racism, build a non-discriminatory culture, and transform cities into tolerant spaces that celebrate diversity. And now that I've given you this overview of lifelong learning, how we understand it, theoretically moving into the more practical aspects of lifelong learning at the local level, I'm happy to maybe share a few interesting cases to show you how members of the GNLC today have been promoting lifelong learning in some innovative ways. Starting with the Republic of Korea, that actually form a country that forms a significant part of the GNLC. It should be noted that it's the country with the highest numbers of cities in the network out of all of member states that are part of the network. And so maybe just before zooming into some of the key cases, I'll just mention that lifelong learning in Korea, specifically in the Republic of Korea, has been embraced at the national level, at the regional level, as well as the local level. It's a country that has a flexible, decentralized system of lifelong learning that is supported by regional and national level institutes. So it hosts the National Institute for Lifelong Learning, NILE, which was established in 2008 in order to foster the development of networks among institutions to support provincial institutes and offer a robust information system among other activities around lifelong learning. The Republic of Korea also has its own network of learning cities, and that is the Korean Association of Lifelong Learning Cities. And this particular association aims to facilitate information sharing and cooperation between members and enhance capabilities of cities where lifelong learning implementation is concerned. And I should mention the association actually works with 169 mayors to date, with 75 different district offices of education to achieve these goals. And just anecdotally, they visited us last year. In the fall of 2022, they visited the city of Hamburg, Bonn, the learning city of also Évry-Courcouronnes in France, among other places, and we were very happy to host them for, again, a knowledge sharing experience, and looking forward to hearing about the visits of Andong in Corinth and vice versa. So moving into a more specific example about Korea, Yeongsu-gu is one of the cities that is part of the network within the Republic of Korea. And it provides an interesting case for different reasons. I'll just start by saying it hosted the 5th International Conference on Learning Cities in October 2021. And during this particular event, the Yeongsu Declaration for Learning Cities was adopted. This particular declaration was adopted by all member cities of the network, and it seeks to support the building of healthy, resilient cities through lifelong learning. So today, now cities in the network are actually in the process of finalizing a concrete tool for creating healthy, resilient cities through lifelong learning and creating specific policy pathways for this to happen. At the local level, it's important to note that the city has taken steps to expand citizen participation while putting its residents at the heart of efforts to enhance lifelong learning for all. So, for example, it has been using a range of spaces to promote lifelong learning. It expanded the library services to encourage reading culture, and cafe, parks, residential areas, other public zones have also been transformed into learning spaces in Yeongsu. And global and active citizenship has been encouraged in the network through a number of key initiatives. So just to give you an example, local residents in Yeongsu receive media training and can use free equipment to produce Yeongsu Village TV with programs like the Yeongsu Reporter. Finally, there have been some efforts made to ensure that learning opportunities are inclusive and cover a wide range of topics. Work and career centers have been set up in different higher education institutions. Also, courses on employment qualifications have been offered at community centers, and citizens are all able to access these quite easily. Last thing is the city has also been promoting good health by supporting access to sport activities. Staying in the Republic of Korea, just to give you another example, Goyang has been working to build a citizen-centered learning city through which it prioritizes accessible, diverse, and sustainable learning. It has also been developing its own system of indicators for monitoring and evaluating lifelong learning at the local level. This is one of the underpinnings of the strategic plan of the city, and also one of the elements that the city is contributing to through the planning education cluster of the network. The city has also planned for recovery from COVID by focusing on job creation and education, prioritizing solidarity, and adapting to new familiarity in human rights. And in Andong, you've heard already, I'll just maybe provide another few elements that we keep track of in our network. So adult literacy education programs really stand out. They've been held at schools and churches, welfare centers, and public libraries, as well as in village community halls. There are some sub-programs that can complement these efforts that range from yearly exhibition of illustrated poems and medical checkups for elderly students by volunteers, to publication of poem books using crowdfunding and literacy quiz contest event. And we've heard already a bit more about that, so I won't go into too much detail. And now just to maybe zoom in a little bit on initiatives in Greece. So Greece has a number of active learning cities that have adopted innovative approaches to foster lifelong learning. The municipal authority of Larissa has focused its effort on creating digital transformation infrastructure, offering educational activities, developing institutions and urban intervention. And it's important to note that the city stands out for its work in the realm of citizenship education, as well as for its efforts in promoting good health and well-being. I'll also note that in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Citizens University of Larissa had to also adapt, and so they organized online sessions to reflect the new reality that they were facing. And in 2021, they developed an online training program for health that was developed in 5 thematic cycles. Beyond this, they actually set up traffic education programs, including I Ride My Bike with My Child, which was targeted at parents and children, and a first aid education program in primary school for students, teachers, and parents that was also established. The city also set up the Municipal Council and Municipal Youth Council. One of the Municipal Youth Council's first initiative was actually launching a webinar series on approaching the next day of the COVID-19 pandemic. And then I'll just also note that Larissa has an Immigrant and Refugee Integration Council, which is an advisory body that works to strengthen the inclusion of migrants and refugees in the local community. Corinth, of course, has also been taking steps to promote lifelong learning to all citizens, including vulnerable groups, and aspires to be a holistic, inclusive, age-friendly, and quality-driven city. And like I mentioned a little bit earlier in the presentation, partnerships are key in promoting lifelong learning at the local level. They can run beyond city boundaries and even across borders, as the GNLC illustrates. So we note that collaborative efforts between learning cities have been particularly fruitful in promoting lifelong learning for all through stimulating knowledge exchange and the diffusion of best practices. And so collaboration between Yeongsu and Larissa in Greece provides this case in point. In late 2020, GNLC members from around the world met virtually to share strategies from experiences and challenges relating to citizenship education. And this particular event was organized collaboratively by Yeongsu and Larissa and was supported by UIL. And during the session, over 200 participants engaged with topics relating to how citizenship education is being integrated into local communities. Certain practical considerations were also discussed, including actor involvement, responsibility sharing, target groups, and forms and modalities of education, of citizenship education that were particularly successful and that could be replicated elsewhere. Building on this, and in their capacity as coordinators of the GNLC's citizenship education clusters, the 2 cities worked with UIL, with a number of other cities, including Gdynia in Poland, Pyongyang in Republic of Korea, to organize a workshop on citizenship education for healthy and sustainable communities in 2021. And so during this, they discussed innovation and how innovation will play a key role for cities and communities in managing current, but also future crises. Lastly, I'll just mention a very interesting publication. Maybe we can put the link in the chat after my after I've discussed this. But Yongsoo and Larissa worked together on a publication called Citizenship Education for Democratic and Sustainable Communities to help cities in advancing their efforts to promote citizenship education and to share good practices. And so the two reflected on their collaborative efforts during a presentation during the 5th International Conference of Learning Cities. And so this publication is really a great example of network-wide collaboration. So cities from different areas around the world participated in developing and answering a survey in order to identify really key innovative best practices moving forward in what it means to establish citizenship education at the local level. I think this case serves as a good example for creative cooperation between cities with the support of UIL as well. And so, as we've seen, the GNLC is really encouraging innovative approaches to lifelong learning across the globe. Efforts have to be inclusive and have to have the idea that lifelong learning is a social good for all at their core. That's really the key. We've seen that learning cities are using lifelong learning in really a very different amount of ways to respond to today's most pressing challenges. And these efforts have, in turn are promoting today inclusion, ecological sustainability, economic productivity, political participation, and also this last aspect of cultural vibrancy. And learning cities in Korea and Greece are at the helm of this work through their engagement in the GNLC, and in some cases, fruitful partnerships between them. And so we look forward to their continued innovative collaboration and approaches, and look forward also to future collaborations of other cities for tackling the challenges of today. I hope we have other cities here with us today who can maybe share their experiences in the chat or can take the floor later. But with that, I leave you, and I thank you very much for your time, and look forward to questions.
Thank you very much for the interesting presentation. In many ways, interesting, theoretically and practically, and case studies, etc. I declare that as Corinth, we are very open to new collaborations as those described in the presentation. And now I have to move to my mentors. I tease many times Dimitris Deligiannis, but I will tell you that in 2018, it was the first time I heard for the UNESCO Global Network of Learning Cities. I didn't know it before. I learned it from Dimitris Deligiannis, from Larissa, and from George Koulaousidis from Thermi City. From that times, we collaborate in many ways, formally and informally. And it's my pleasure that they will comment on the presentations so far. And afterwards, Petros Gougoulakis, I will explain, will say a few words. So, Dimitris Deligiannis, Vice Mayor of Larissa, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, George. Thank you very much for your kind invitation. And after this, for the presentation of Marie, so good collaboration, so many efforts for our collaboration with Korea. I must say that my city, Larissa, as Adong, is a city of 65,000 residents in the center of Greece. Of course, Larissa, as other cities all over Europe, faced so many, lots of problems, lots of challenges in difficult years. And all these difficult years, we're trying as a city, as a dog, as Corinth, as Thermi, not only to cope with the problems, but to find answers and solutions for the future. We heard from Marie that we have about 294 members and from 76 countries. Okay, Marie, this is the number, the number, I think. But we know that the societies have differences. Every learning city, as member of the network of learning cities of UNESCO, is different. A learning city in the process of fulfilling its goals often has to deal with obstacles owed to institutional, financial, and administrative factors. And probably the most important obstacles have to do with cultural and educational factors. This is my opinion. Political scientists and social psychologists have showed that in many societies, traditional social culture remains strong. For example, in many small communities in Greece, this culture is characterized by introversion and mistrust towards innovation, change, and collective effort. We have to face this. So we have all together, all the members of this network, we have to create a new environment to share our ideas, to share our good practices, to hear each other. Because the learning city, as we see from this useful presentation, is certainly not a logo. It is a project to construct and support the identity of every city as a learning identity. Because the concept of the learning city refers precisely to a learning organization which tries to learn and transform itself, with learning being an ongoing process, difficult process. And the great challenge for us is to mobilize civil society, the citizens, the residents of our cities. The main issues of this process are, as we see from the example of Adong, the need to overcome in our days a difficult social reality with new structures and institutions, the formation of communication channels and synergies with institutions and citizens, with actions with an emphasis on vulnerable groups. But I must say that this political process and choice is not politically neutral. It has a political dimension, and it refers to a course of change that includes the search for new balances, sometimes involving conflicts. A more critical vision, I think, of learning is necessary. There has to be a focus on democracy, on justice, on care, on social justice, on equality. We see in the days of COVID pandemic how affected this course. In Larissa, perhaps in the other cities, many deficits of the educational programs came to the surface, while the right of all children to access to education was questioned in practice. On the other hand, it is a common finding that when a crisis occurs, we are forced to learn many things in a very short time. The recent pandemic has brought us in contact and educated us, often violently, on concepts such as hygiene practices and the protection of the elderly. The concept of solidarity has essentially become a condition . As an epilogue, I could say that the concept of the learning city and its holistic approach is a different political proposition. And it is now our obligation as members of this network to create as citizens within a democratic community the conditions for a sustainable life consciously and consistently. Thank you very much for your idea to invite me, George.
Thanks, Dimitris. And Larissa was always a good example for us, and we look forward for stronger collaboration. And now the floor is to another friend, George Koulouzidis, who was very active in Thermi, but the last years he's working more in the Open University of Greece as an assistant professor. George, the floor is yours.
More precisely, the window is mine, not the floor, because we are on a virtual environment. So hello, everyone, and thank you for inviting me also to say a few words. I have to be honest with you, I was quite impressed by the presentation done by Mr. Jean or Hin, I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, from Andong. I was not aware of what was really going on there. And thank you, Mary Macaulay, for your presentation as well. It verified one more time that something that I hold as a strong belief, that UNESCO is the organization that shares the most holistic perspective on what we call lifelong learning. I will not spend a lot of your time. I will just want to say a few things, because many of the things that I wanted to say are already said by Dimitris. I would like to say, however, that for a city to become a learning city, some people think that this is just a project. It is not a project. It is a political project. It is grounded on specific principles that are related and connected to democracy, participation, and equal opportunities. So for me, it is not, it is something that has to be infused into the political discussion in Greece, especially in Greece, because 2023 is a year of local elections, and maybe it's a big opportunity to promote the idea of learning cities to people that are going to be elected for the next 4 years in order to take over the administration of their cities. A learning city for me, it's not just a municipality that takes care of its educational structures. This is something that is part of being in a learning city, but it's not only this. And also a learning city, from my point of view, is not a municipality which offers all learning opportunities for its citizens. It is this as well, but it cannot be only this. For me, a learning city, it's a city that mobilizes its people to participate into the everyday life of the city. This is one of the biggest problems we face in Greece, and I think it's one of the biggest issues in Europe. I'm not aware of what's the case in Korea or in other parts of the world, but the quality of our democracy, the fact that citizens are indifferent, the fact that citizens do not believe in politics, the fact that these citizens think that someone else should make the change is the biggest problems nowadays. So for me, a learning city, above and beyond everything else, has to create spaces for people to get together, to discuss together, to address issues together, and to find solutions together. This is for me the primary scope of a city that wishes to be named learning city. A learning city should be a place where everyone and Marie was right in the sense that when we say everyone, we mean everyone. Everyone, even those that are socially vulnerable, like refugees, migrants, people with low skills, people that have people that face illiteracy problems. Everyone should have the right to participate, and everyone should develop the feeling of a common effort in order to move forward. This is for me the core. This for me is the core issue for every learning city. In Greece, more particularly, I was working for local administration for many years, actually for 15 years. Now I have moved to the academia, and maybe being outside of the local administration area, I have developed a more critical view on what is going on. In Greece, there are 332 municipalities. 332 municipalities. Of these 332 municipalities, only 8 participate in the global network of learning cities. And from these 8 participating cities, I'm sorry to say that I think that maybe 3 or 4 of them continue to support the core idea of a learning city, which is participation, democracy, inclusion. So we have to move as fast as possible. The problems are big. Climate change is now evident everywhere. Artificial intelligence is nowadays becoming an issue, and people should be aware of what is going on in the cyber world, how they can cope with all this technology that surrounds them. But above and beyond, I do hope that the orientation of the Learning City project will continue to be a political orientation that will that will foster participation and thus democracy. Of course, I think that UNESCO should play a central role in this effort, because I do have the feeling that other organizations that are more oriented towards what we call vocationalization are becoming powerhouses in the field of lifelong learning, and this is quite distressing for me. I'm reading chat, the learning city of Jose Paz from Argentina. Thank you, Argentina, for being with today and for the message. I do think that UNESCO should make more efforts to make sure that the real meaning of lifelong learning that is there in UNESCO's heart is transmitted with everywhere in the world, and of course within the global learning network city. The global network of learning cities. Now I said it correctly. So thank you very much for for inviting me. It was very interesting to see all these ideas. It was interesting to see friends from Page, Hungary, from Corinth, from Larissa, from other places. And let's hope for a better future. Let's hope that more cities will embrace the idea of becoming learning cities and improve the democratic institutions everywhere in the world. Thank you.
Thanks, George. Petro, 2-3 words, because I would like some other people from other countries to have a comment or to say something.
No,
Petros Gogulakis from the University of Stockholm, professor in the University of Stockholm, and a good friend of Corinth, and the consul of the University of Peloponnese, which has 2 departments in Corinth. Petro, the window, the floor, whatever you want is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Yorgos, and bye to everybody here, and thank you for your invitation and your kind welcoming words. I'm very thankful, and I really mean that, to have this opportunity to send you a short greeting from Stockholm. This event reminds me my visits and my experience from that time when I was a visiting professor at Nagoya University in Japan.
That's why I invited you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. We, West and East, Greece and South Korea, Corinth and Andong, we have much to learn from each other and benefit from each other's development through cooperation and mutual respect instead of destructive competition. We do live, as you know, as you experience that, we do live in a very strange time, and it is more important than ever to communicate and cooperate. Let's put it in another way. We need more space for love than war. Lifelong learning is the maximum of our time and of importance for both individuals and society. Cities become learning as their citizens are offered opportunities to learn. A learning city provides an appropriate structure of opportunities for its citizens to learn together, but does not dictate the content and form of their learning. Therefore, learning in learning cities cannot be other than inclusive, democratic, collective, and solution-oriented. And of course, problem-based too. I'm very proud to be a member of the steering board of the University of Peloponnese that wholeheartedly supports the Vice Chancellor's efforts to further strengthen the cooperation between the university and the surrounding community, not least with the county municipality of Corinth. And let's, as a final word, let's keep in mind that we learn more than we are aware of when we meet others. So thank you, and see you again.
Thanks, Petros. And now I would like the people who are not from Greece to say a few words, to comment, to make questions maybe to the speakers. And if you can support it, we can have an answer from them, or otherwise we see how we will work. But I would like other people, either from South Korea or from other countries. There are many. It's impressive how many countries there are here. So please take the window of the floor. Any comment from any other country? I saw in the chat few things, but you can speak as well. Any questions, any comments, any intervention? No?
Hello.
Hello.
This is Jürgen from Hamburg.
Welcome.
I've been already in a meeting with Larissa, so I guess it is a friendship already going on between Hamburg and Larissa, and I'm very happy to be here again. And I would also like to mention that this network of the learning cities, this global network of learning cities, very good chance getting acquainted to each other. That's what the last words of my Professor, I forgot his name, Petros said, because there should not be only one meeting, but more meetings. You know, this technique is so easy. You can have bilateral discussions between cities, and I even established an international Stammtisch in Germany, we say, an international regular round with friends for ESD from all the world. So you can do the same, keep on going, keep on doing this networking, exchange, whatever, becoming friends, and then once in a while visit yourself in the other city, come together like the Korean cities came to Hamburg, become friends and keep on doing. Don't be afraid, this is just one meeting, but the support of the URL is just great for us learning cities to learn about each other and to come together. That's all I can say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I saw in the chat the Vice Mayor of Elefsina, who is going to be the cultural capital of Europe. I don't know if she wants to say something. No, but she commented that on it. She just mentioned it. Someone else? Greek or not Greek? Maybe Vasilios Triandis. Go on, please. Vasilios Triandafilou. Yes.
Hello. Vasilis Triandafilou is my name. I'm a professor of the Electrical and Computer Engineering Department of the University of Peloponnese. We talked a few days ago. I found the whole agenda and the conversation very interesting. What I have to point out is since my research, the last 6 or 7 years is during e-democracy, e-participation, and e-deliberation in government, e-society. We have developed an e-deliberation tool, and there is a lot of criticism about education in human rights and civil engagement in UE level, due to the fact that although they have been, since 2010, there have been a lot of educational tools developed. There seems to that the results of introducing all these tools were in a theoretical level. Thus, they have found out that there are a lot of surveys and researches that have found out that these old tools and educational material has produced a very little result. So since 2016, there is a lot of discussion in all EU just to how to introduce practical educational tools in secondary schools, mostly, in order to advance the human rights and civil engagement, citizenship training in schools. So I want to know if there is something in this area in the cities participating in the network.
I don't know if Marie can say something on it.
Is this the point you were making in the chat, I believe, correct? Yeah, the real environment such as e-deliberation tools.
For example, we have participated in a Horizon project this year that the main concept is that we introduce e-deliberation tools in schools, and all the matters in the school is done through deliberation processes or debates or other tools like voting, e-voting, and something like that. We try to educate people through practice.
My colleague mentioned in the chat the Larissa Municipal Youth Council series on approaching the next day of the COVID-19 pandemic, which I mentioned in my presentation as an initiative for mutual deliberation and discussion. I don't know if it really quantifies as a practical deliberation tool that people can vote through, but maybe I don't have specific examples in mind of this. I'm sure cities are using to some extent different forms of engaging, you know, students or other citizen groups in the context of e-deliberation. I'm thinking Hamburg has developed this ESD plan that they, master plan that they actually did a survey through so people could vote, I think, on different issues that they would want to focus on. Jürgen, if you're still here, maybe you want to just touch upon that example. Yeah.
Okay.
I can't say, yeah, Jürgen is still here.
Or you can send an email, Vasily, and ask for more details. But we have to go on to move on because...
Yeah, it's a rising issue now in the EU. There are a lot of research money granted to projects about democracy and education. So it's a field opening now. The research discussion just opening now in Europe.
Okay. Anybody else? Some thoughts, some comments, some questions? There were so many interesting things, so many innovative things from Adog. Very special ways to promote lifelong learning. It was impressive, at least for me, as a Greek, where we can see many times bureaucracy and things like that. Very flexible way, very clever ways, using a cafeteria, for example. Very informal ways, let's say. Anything else to comment on it? Okay, then. Yes, Jeonjin. I have to mention Jeonjin, that he's one of the main, I can say many times the word main, persons that supported this meeting. She's responsible of public, it doesn't come the word, foreign relations, how do you call it? Yeah, of Adog.
Yeah, that's what I'm working.
Yes, and he really enormously helped us.
I'm working for international relations, but I'm not actually working for the lifelong learning, but I'm cooperating with other offices in our local government. And I have a questions instead of Mr. Jin about citizens' participation of Corinth City for future collaboration. Mr. Jin asked me, actually this is his question. He asked me about how the citizen can participate in proposing or suggesting any ideas to make programs.
In Corinth.
Do you get it? Did you get it?
Yes, but where? In general or in Corinth?
Because in Andong, in general cases of Korea, the local government support the budget and the other facilities to maintain the programs. But usually the programs such as various lifelong learning programs, including street classes or learning illiteracy classes, so many programs are suggested by citizens' idea. The government accept and negotiate the idea how they can handle the program, and they adapt it, and they make the program. That's our government side do, but to do so, our the citizens, like lifelong learners, we say, we have a community.
잠겼어.
Can you hear me?
음소거가 됐어, 음소거.
Can you hear me? Please? Yes, yes.
So this is about citizens' participation in planning lifelong learning programs. So his question is how citizens can participate in making the programs. So for example, the Koreans, how do you handle those situations with the citizens?
Mr. Bagakis, you have to unmute yourself.
Okay. Yes, I will give you an answer, but also the other Greeks can add to this, because there are many similarities between different cities. The problem with us is that it is more centralized what it comes. There are many programs coming from the central government of the general secretary and things like that. And the cities can choose. They have a menu, which is not the same. That's what I am jealous of Adong and of South Korea. This bottom-up way that you create your programs. There is a flexibility. There is a flexibility also in Greece, but it is not the same. It's restricted. That's my understanding. But also George or Dimitris can add a few words on it.
Yes. I think when Marie Macaulay was presenting Andong and Korea, she mentioned that Korea's cities are a big part of the global network, and because it is promoted by the central government, but it's also decentralized in the sense that there is decentralized, let's say, opportunities to take decisions with the support of some central institutions. Well, in Greece, we have the problem that Professor Bagakis just said. The whole system is very, very centralized. Yes, there are windows of opportunity, as we say. There are opportunities for municipalities to do their own programs, but still, most of the decision-making processes regarding the nature of the program, the length of the program, even the content of the program is centralized. This is an issue that has to be resolved because it is my belief that the more centralized, the more decentralized the system is, the best results for lifelong learning will be evident. So I think that in Greece there is a very, very narrow window of opportunity to really ask the citizens and make a study or create some forms of deliberation about what kind of programs would you like our municipality to offer. Most of the programs are, let's say, coming in from the central government and more specifically the Ministry of Education.
Okay.
이 시스템이 우리는 사실 시민들이 처음에
Yes. Okay. The answers are okay. Okay. If there is no other question or any other comment, or from any other Greek cities integrated in the networks, then the time is more than expected. We have run and with the difficulties, the technical difficulties. I would like then to say two words for Corinth, because I wanted that other cities will speak, but I can say that Corinth is very close to Athens. Just I say that for the foreign participants. It's a seaside city. It has a lot of history. It has a very nice canal, special canal with a lot of history in it. It was a place that, for those who are Christians, St. Paul visited for a long time and stayed in Corinth and wrote a special letter for Corinthians. It has a university with 2 departments in Corinth, the University of Peloponnese. As we said, we are focused in civilization, in education, and in tourism. We are open to more collaborations with different cities of the network. And I think we will end up here. I would like to mention another person who also supported a lot the responsible of the municipality of Corinth for development, Garifallia Christopoulou. She was the John Jean of Corinth, in the sense that he supported us a lot. Garifallia, would you like to say an hello? She is here, Garifallia. And I would like to thank a lot Thimios, the technician who helped us a lot. We're expecting the friends from ADOG to visit Corinth, and we are open to all kinds of collaborations with different countries, with different cities of the network. Thank you very much for being with us. It was our first international organization, but we promise that we will do more and better ones. Aristea, would you like to say something? Aristea Garifallia, Kalogerapoulou. No?
Hi, I'm Aristea.
Yes.
No, I don't want to say something else. And it was very interesting, all of this. And I believe that Corinth do some, let's say, some things like a dog and do and find better ways to understand what people need.
Okay, thanks, Aristea. She is from the coordination group of Corinth. Thanks all of you once again, particularly the people from ADOG and from the coordination group. And I promise you that we will do more things in the future. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye.